We recall from our study of inversions in the major mode that it is often better to not double the bass note of first inversion triads, but a doubled bass is the norm for the second inversion. Moreover, when a leading tone triad is inverted, the root of the chord, as the leading tone, must not be doubled. If it is the first inversion, it is best to double either the third, which is the bass note, or the fifth. The case of two or more first inversion triads connected in succession is special. For the sake of natural voice leading, you can go ahead and double the bass of one of the 6 chords. In a series of 6 chords, we have to double the bass note of every other triad. Understand that if we did not double the bass of one of the chords, there would be parallel fifths and parallel octaves, which is faulty voice leading. Second inversion triads prefer the doubled fifth of the chord, which is, of course, the bass note. You may sometimes double the 4 of the 6/4 chord, which actually is the root of the triad. Less common in this inversion is the doubling of the 6, which is the third of the triad, only when a more natural voice leading suggests it. As to the distribution of chord tones among upper voices, there are several possibilities in first inversion, whether in close position or open position. It is similar for the second inversion position. There is much leeway of choice as to the distribution of chord tones. Close position and open. As a reminder, 2 or 3 consecutive figures over a single bass note share equal parts of the total duration of the bass note. The examples shown here can be realized in more than one way. For example, everything discussed previously about choice and prevalence of specific inversions in major also applies to minor. The tonic 6/4 triad occurs most often at cadences, on the accented or downbeat. Six/4 chords in the middle of an exercise are rare, usually on an upbeat and hardly ever in succession. A 6/4 chord on an upbeat may be preceded by a triad containing a tone in common with the fifth or root of the 6/4 itself. We say that this tone is prepared and thus sustains into the 6/4 chord that follows. The example shows 3 such passing 6/4 chords. Students will want to work out these 2 exercises. Start by adding the rest of the Roman numerals, marking scale degrees of chord roots. Next, work out the upper voices. Once finished, it is always good to play it through on a piano keyboard. You may find it necessary to double the third of some triads to avoid forbidden parallels and such. Be careful whenever an inverted triad contains the leading tone, and do not double that one. Well, that's it for this introduction of basic concepts pertaining to progressions of triads in the minor mode. Post a question or comment, subscribe, share a link, and if you like this installment, be sure to tap that thumbs up button. Intrepid students ought to try working out the more difficult exercises, major and minor keys, found on pages 50 to 51 of the Manual of Harmony. See link in the description. Be sure to transpose your work to the specified keys as well. Then play everything on your piano keyboard. Thank you for watching.